You're not getting any younger, so
Get some sunshine. Get outside. I feel like that has just been resonating with me a lot lately.
hey you. Yes, you. Welcome to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast, a podcast for people who want to disrupt their lives for a good reason, to make it count. I'm your host, Jen Glantz, and every week I'll drop a new episode with stories from real people just like you, who woke up one morning and decided to make big changes, starting with small things. We'll cover topics like entrepreneurship, love, failure, and self-care. Hey, you're not getting any younger, so let's make this an adventure. Ready? Hey, any youngers, it's me, your host, Jen Glantz, back with another episode of the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. Okay, one thing that I actively struggle with pretty much every day of my life is figuring out what to eat. Number one, because I'm super picky, I only eat pizza, and I'm not even kidding you. I mean, I've been a lifelong vegetarian, so finding healthy options is really been hard for me. I'm also not a cook. I don't like cooking. I have tried it, please. During the pandemic, I tried everything. It's not for me. It doesn't work with my vibe. I don't follow directions well, so I end up just making like the most disgusting things in the world. You could even ask Adam on our like fifth date or something. I wanted to cook for him because I thought that's what you should do. And he literally came over and was like, this is terrible. And we laughed about it, but it's just, cooking's not my thing. So I always struggle with what to eat and always struggle with figuring out like the nutrients that I need and all of that. So that's why I brought on a guest today who is incredible and who is in this space to dish some truth and make our lives easier when it comes to nutrition and eating and not doing things to harm our body that maybe we don't realize we're doing. We have a very open and honest conversation in this podcast. I am so excited for you to meet and listen to Tamar Samuels. She's the co-founder of Culina Health, a registered dietitian and nutritionist. In this podcast, we talk about uncovering disordered eating, how to shift health behaviors, and how to find the right eating plan for you. Again, this is something I'm actively working on. I haven't mastered, but Tamar's tips are so incredible, so fun, and so easy to follow. Can't wait for you to check this out and listen to it. And I'll be back next week, of course, with a new episode. Talk to you then. All my love, Jen Glantz. Today's podcast is brought to you by Thinkific. Thinkific is the #1 platform to create, market, and sell your own online courses or membership sites. They have revolutionized how individuals earn and learn online by building an all-in-one platform designed for both course creators and their audience. Try Thinkific for free today at try.thinkific.com/Jen Glantz. That's try.thinkific.com/Jen Glantz. You are going to love it. Welcome to the show, Tamar. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Jen, thank you for having me. I am so excited to connect with you.
I am so excited too, and I want to ask you the first question I always ask everybody, which is, how would you describe who you are and what you do to a person you just met at a party?
I love it. Well, my name is Tamar Samuels. I'm a registered dietitian. I'm a mom, and I'm the co-founder of a health tech startup company. We provide personalized nutrition, powered by registered dietitians to help people live their best lives, and understand really the science behind nutrition, and make it digestible and relatable.
You got into this world as a dietitian when you were experiencing chronic IBS. You started restricting food. Can you talk a little about that journey and also how you realized your relationship with food was getting to a place where maybe you needed to learn more or get help?
Yeah, I think you get to this breaking point where you're just so frustrated and everything that you're doing isn't working. And then it really starts to impact your quality of life. I think for me, like I noticed a huge difference when it started impacting my relationship with my partner, and started impacting my relationship with my friends and my own self-confidence. And I think having that awareness is so important, really being able to like tune in to what's going on and be mindful and present and take a step back and say, whoa, like this is a problem. It's affecting the things that are most dear to me and most important to me. I need to rethink the way that I'm approaching this and address this head on.
Yeah, I feel like I've had a very weird relationship with food my whole life, and that's because at the age of 6, I determined that I was going to be a vegetarian. I was never going to eat meat, and back then nobody had resources or really education like they do now about vegetarianism. So that started my very weird relationship with food, and ever since then I've become the pickiest and worst eater ever. So I know there's people who are listening who are like, okay, I know that I have a weird relationship with food, or maybe they have some sort of disordered eating. What is a good first step after that light bulb goes off in your head and you realize, okay, there's something going on here?
Yeah, I think the good first step is to like let go of judgment and be in a position to receive help, right? I think you've been at this for a while on your own and it probably hasn't worked. But at the same time, you have to eat every day, all day for the rest of your life. So it's really important that you address this. So really take a step back, let go of like judgment and guilt, and just say, you know what, I need help. It takes a village. Let's see what my tools are, see what resources are available, and like move forward with tackling this.
You know what's so interesting too is like I didn't really realize I had a weird relationship with food until I started talking to people and I'd say, "What do you eat for breakfast? What do you eat for lunch?" And then I realized, wow, like I restrict myself. I do so many interesting things that maybe aren't normal, let alone healthy. So, how can a person know if they've entered this era or this realm of disordered eating? How can they know that?
Yeah, it's such a great question. So there's a difference between disordered eating and eating disorders. Eating disorders are clinical diagnoses based on the DSM. And so there are a certain subset of eating disorders that are very specific in terms of like signs and symptoms of those eating disorders. Disordered eating is a little more sticky, right? Like it's a little bit like less clearly defined. You know, we can say that we have disordered eating if we are regularly skipping meals and then overeating, right? We can say that we have disordered eating if we're, you know, chronically eating emotionally, and it impacts our quality of life. I think it's really important for us to think about that component, like to what extent is this impacting our quality of life? I think that's really the key when we think about disordered eating. You know, as I said before, it really started to impact my relationships with my, you know, the people who I loved the most, and my confidence, which impacted my, you know, performance at work. And so when you get to that point where it's really impacting your quality of life, I think that's when, you know, you want to kind of take a step back and say, okay, I think this is a problem that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and I was telling you earlier, I always find the topic of nutrition to be so complicated, so confusing and intimidating. They don't, as far as I remember, I never learned about it in school. You're taught through your parents, and then that relationship that they have with food can rub off on you. So, how did you start to figure out ways to approach nutrition and health in a non-intimidating way?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You know, doctors don't get much nutrition education either. And I think the problem is that dietitians have a bad rap, right? I think we're perceived as the food police. A lot of dietitians are white women. And so if you don't fit into that category, it can feel like, oh, this person can't relate to me. I don't, you know, feel comfortable like confiding in them for support with, you know, my health. So it can be really, really challenging to really get the help that you need. Um, yeah, it's a huge problem.
No, I feel like it's a huge problem, and it's also something like we don't really talk about our relationship with food. I mean, can you sort of talk about all the different things that, and I'm sure there's a lot that go into that relationship because it's your culture, but it's also maybe how your parents raised you, and maybe it's things that you've picked up along the way. I mean, like what goes into our relationship with food?
Yeah, it's multifactorial. As you said, Jen, right? It's our culture that informs what we eat and how we eat. It's our built environment. So our access to food. You know, you and I are from Brooklyn and we have access to whatever we want at any time. But other people don't have that level of access. Some people have to drive, you know, 20 miles in order for them to get to a grocery store. So I think that's a really important factor when we're thinking about our relationship with food. Obviously our socioeconomic status impacts our relationship with food and access. Our friend group and our social groups, right? Like if we are with friends who are, constantly going out, and part of our social life is related to sort of nutrition, and food is tied into that. That impacts our relationship with food. Using food for comfort and coping is a big factor here too. So it's multifactorial, right? Even exercise, the way that we exercise can impact our relationship with food. Athletes tend to be more skewed towards having eating disorders, especially athletes that are involved in sports like gymnastics, for example, or wrestling, that where weight plays a big factor in their ability to perform. So their life, right? Like I said before, we eat every day, all throughout the day. And so when we can't eat in a vacuum, our life really influences our nutrition and our relationship with food. We can't separate the two, which is why it's so important to have someone that you can talk to about your nutrition, because it is so important for our lives and our health overall.
Yeah, this is what I was going to ask you is, you can Google search all day, like, what should I be eating that's healthy? But don't you feel like it's a bit also everyone's so unique? Like, what I should be eating would be very different than another person. Like, is all of this very personalized to each individual? Or is it more, one size fits all kind of information?
Well, I think that's the problem, right? Like the current nutrition space is very fragmented. Like you're either doing this more prescriptive diet, like keto diet, or maybe intermittent fasting, or you're doing like intuitive eating, which is sort of like the approach of like eat as your body tells you to eat. But I think, both of those ways of eating can work for certain people, but they don't work for everyone. And that's what's really missing in the nutrition space is the personalization. And that's really the work that we do at Culina Health, is really work with our clients and understanding, okay, what are all of the factors that are influencing your health and getting in the way or supporting you in your ability to reach your goals. Like Jen, you just said at the age of 6, you decided that you wanted to be a vegetarian, right? So I would not recommend a keto diet for you. Not just because you're a vegetarian. There's a number of other reasons why. You also told me that, you have a strained relationship with food. And so like following a ketogenic diet is very restrictive. And that would probably make your relationship with food a lot worse. Ketogenic diet it's obviously very fat heavy, but tends to be more meat heavy as well. So that wouldn't be a good option for you. So I think it's really important for us to think about, where are you at in your life? What do you want to do? What are the goals that you want to achieve? I think more often than not, people see their healthcare provider and their healthcare provider tells them, you need to lose weight, right? But what if you don't want to lose weight? What if you just want to like cook more? Or, what if you want to like work on just having a more balanced relationship with food, or work on more self-care, right? So I think the personalization is about the person, right? We're really people centered in the work that we do, at Culina Health. That's one of our core values, is prioritizing our people, our patients, our clients above and beyond anything else.
Yeah, I feel like that's really why I think your startup, this business, it disrupts the industry, because you're right. Like a lot of people, they're like, I need to lose weight, or all my friends are doing keto. If I told you how many times I considered keto, which is again the biggest mistake because I don't eat meat, let alone a lot of things, like, but everyone else was doing it, and there's vegetarian keto, but it would not have been right for me, just like you said, for so many reasons. And I think I saw on, I think maybe Culina's Instagram or your Instagram, a post about how we judge ourselves based on losing weight on a scale, which is so faulty, right? Because that number can mean all different things. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're healthy or not. So, even with your business, how can people start to judge that their health is changing because of the nutrition that they're on, or the food that they're eating?
Such a great question. So we actually do evidence-based assessments with our clients and our patients, where we have these, markers for diet quality, where we're asking regularly, every 3 months, How often are you eating fruits and vegetables? How often are you eating sugar sweetened beverages? How often are you eating added sugars, right? So there are so many non-scale health assessments that we do as registered dietitians. What's your relationship with food like? How often are you eating to soothe emotions, right? Like the research exists to be able to assess these things, and we actually incorporate those assessments as part of our care delivery and the work that we do with our clients. So we have these, evidence-based, science-based ways to assess. And then we're also looking at things like health markers, right? Like, were we able to see changes in health related quality of life? Were we able to see changes in GI symptoms? Were we able to see changes in, blood sugar and cholesterol? We really approach things from, a perspective of health. Weight loss can be important, and if someone comes to me and they want to lose weight, if someone comes to any of our dietitians and they want to lose weight, we will absolutely support and encourage you in doing that in a personalized and sustainable way, right? You don't have to shy away from weight loss. I think it's very taboo to talk about losing weight right now. There's nothing wrong with wanting to lose weight. The problem with, weight loss is that it is associated with diet culture. And there's another way to do weight loss that is sustainable and personalized, that doesn't, result in harm mentally or physically to our people. So, that's really where the personalization comes from. That's how we have these like non-scale wins, is when we take a step back and look at all of the other factors that changing our nutrition has an impact.
Yeah, I think that's so important and so good to sort of hear, because people have all different types of health goals and you might want to lose weight for any reasons. But again, doing the crash diets, and I've done so many of these, I don't even want to admit the things I've done to my bodies because I wanted to lose weight, but it's not sustainable. And then you go through the psychology of being mad at yourself and it messes with your relationship with food. One of the things I want to ask you about is a common problem I have, and I know a lot of listeners have too, is, cooking and putting together meals is the last thing that I want to do. So I'll reach for the most unhealthy snack because I don't want to make lunch. I know meal prepping is something that a lot of people talk about, and I know it's fantastic, but I have not reached that level of being able to do it in my life. I want to start. I have good intentions. Do you have any advice for somebody who needs to start doing something like this, but just has not been able to?
Yeah, let me tell you something. I have a dirty little secret, and that's that I hate cooking, even though I'm a dietitian. So I feel you. Actually, the most cooking I've ever done in my life is now, because I have a child and I have to cook for her in order for her to survive and live. So, being a new mom with a little baby has really forced me to, think about cooking in a different way because it's something that I have to do. But, I'm also, as you know, a busy mom, right? I am co-founder of a startup. I have a team that I manage. There's a lot going on in my life too. So it's really important for like things to be easy and quick. And so something that I really like to lean on are like sheet pan meals. I really love to just like get pre-chopped everything. So pre-chopped veggies, maybe some pre-chopped like sweet potatoes, or even just like the fingerling potatoes. So they like cook really easily and they're already kind of pre-chopped. And then I just add that to a pan with some seasoning, olive oil, and some chicken. You can marinate the chicken in like olive oil and garlic and thyme. Really quick, really easy, or even some salmon, and just pop it in the oven, and everything is all in the same pan, and you're done. So I think that's like a really great way to think about batch cooking in like sort of digestible, easy. And then it doesn't have to be like you're putting everything into Tupperware and you're, spending 4 hours on a Sunday. What I like to do is I like to do like a set of batch cooking on Sunday and then a set of batch cooking on Wednesday. So I'm diversifying, right? Like I'm not just like eating the same thing every day. You could also lean on, there's like a lot of meal delivery services available. So my approach when it comes to like just eating more home cooked meals is to just experiment, see what resources and tools are out there that'll make your life easier. I do like a farm box that I get shipped to my apartment, and like I don't want to waste those veggies. So it's a great motivator for me to cook them. I think looping in friends, family, like having dinner parties at your house, there's so many ways to kind of make it happen for you from like a behavioral perspective, but also like it's okay if you want to eat out too, maybe just think about eating out, um, you know, 5 meals a week instead of 10 meals a week, right? So even cutting it in half can go a long way for like supporting your health.
I love this. I'm seriously sitting here like, can I work with you? How quickly can I start working?
Yes, let's do it.
I
Let's
mean,
do
like, oh my
it.
God, I love your honesty because again, like I personally can't relate to a person who's like every Sunday I plan every meal. Like I just can't do that, I can't do that. And it's not realistic, but the sheet meals, things like that are things that even though I am lazy, that's so doable and that's so easy to do. There's like no excuses. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I want to ask you the last question I ask everybody, which is to fill in the blank. You're not getting any younger. So
Get some sunshine. Get outside. I feel like that has just been resonating with me a lot lately. We're kind of like coming out of the post-pandemic, even though the pandemic isn't over. Like really just, being used to being inside all the time. And there are so many benefits mentally and physically related to just like taking a step outside, giving yourself a bit of a break, connecting with nature. Even though we live in, the concrete jungle, it's so important for us to just take a step outside. So you're not getting any younger, get some sunlight, maybe wear sunblock so you don't get wrinkles. But
I love that advice. And it's a rainy day outside, but there's still ways to get sun. And I love that. Where can people find out more about you and everything else?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, we take insurance and we also do free discovery calls. So, if you're curious about what it's like working with us, if you want to learn more, if you're a little bit apprehensive about diving in and just want to talk to us, we love talking to everybody. It's like my favorite thing to do. So, you can find us at culinahealth.com and you can book a free discovery call with us. And we do complimentary benefits checks. So if you are curious if your insurance covers, we're a network with most major insurances. So you can contact us there. You can also find us on Instagram at Culina Health, and you can find me on Instagram at tamarsamuels.rd.
Amazing. I'm going to seriously book that discovery call with you. You're going
I'm
to see
gonna
me.
I'm gonna email you and be like, "Hi, just waiting."
Oh, I'm adding it to my to-do list today. Thank you so much for being on the show. Hey you. Thank you for listening to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. There are hundreds of thousands of pods out there, so thank you for listening to this one. You can find the show notes for this week's episode up on our website, anyyounger.com. Subscribe, rate, and review the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast on iTunes so that other ears around the world can listen too. Oh, and join our secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, where over 1,000 people are talking about how to disrupt their lives, for a good reason, to make it count. Until next week, all my love, Jen Glantz.